Chapter 5. Becoming Friends. That night, just before he went to bed, Akimbo took a dish of milk out to Simba's run and put it in front of him. The tiny lion sniffed at the milk, just as he had done before, and then turned away. "You must eat," Akimbo urged. "It's no good just turning up your nose like that." Simba looked at Akimbo in a puzzled sort of way. He was not at all sure about his surroundings, and he was uncertain whether or not to trust this boy who kept putting a dish of strange-smelling liquid in front of him. Akimbo picked up the dish of milk and moved it to a corner of the run. "I'll leave it there," he said gently. "When you get really hungry in the night, that's the time you should have it." And with that he turned away, leaving the little lion by itself in the run. It made him sad to leave Simba, as he imagined that the little creature would be missing his mother. But he would get used to that. Animals always did. And he would have plenty of friends in the game camp. Akimbo would see to that. The next morning, the first thing that Akimbo did when he awoke was to leap out of bed and make his way as fast as he could to Simba's run. The lion was standing near the gate, his paws up on the wooden struts, and when he saw Akimbo, he let out a soft mew of greeting. Akimbo ruffled his fur, which seemed to give him pleasure, and then he looked over at the corner of the run where he had left the dish of milk. It had clearly not been touched. "Listen," he said as he picked up the small bundle of yellow fur and stroked his back. "If you don't eat, you'll just get weaker and weaker. You must try." But Simba was not interested in the milk, and try as he might, Akimbo could not get him to change his mind. "So he's not eating," said Akimbo's father when his son spoke to him at breakfast time. "That doesn't look good, I'm afraid." Akimbo's heart sank. He would give anything to get the lion cub to eat, but if he wouldn't take milk, then what hope was there? "What will happen?" he asked his father. "Surely he'll get so hungry that he'll drink the milk, even if he doesn't like it." Akimbo's father shook his head. "I'm afraid not," he said. Animals can be strange that way. Sometimes they just won't eat in captivity, and there's nothing you can do about it." Akimbo hung his head. "I don't want Simba to starve," he said sadly. "I don't want him to die." For a few moments his father said nothing. Then he leaned forwards and patted his son's shoulder. "There is somebody who might be able to help," he said. "One of the other rangers raised a lion cub once. I can ask him how he did it. He may have some ideas. Would you like that?" Akimbo was overjoyed. He was sure that there was some way of getting Simba to eat. All he had to do was to hear about it. That afternoon, the ranger called at the house and asked Akimbo to show him where Simba was kept. Akimbo took him out to the run, where they saw Simba lying, panting in the heat. The little lion was now quite weak, and didn't even bother to rise to his feet when the humans came into his run. The ranger sighed. "He's not in good shape," he said. "Has he eaten anything at all?" "No," said Akimbo. "Nothing." The ranger walked over to Simba and gently opened the cub's jaws. He peered into his mouth and then felt around his stomach. "I can't see anything wrong," he said at last. "What have you been giving him?" "Milk," said Akimbo. "I showed him some meat, but he wasn't interested." The ranger laughed. "He wouldn't be," he said. "Not just yet. Tell me, has your mother got any honey?" "Yes," said Akimbo. "I have it on my bread every day." "And do you like it?" asked the ranger, smiling. "Of course," replied Akimbo. "I think it's delicious." "Well," said the ranger, "so do lion cubs. Now you go and mix up 2 or 3 spoons of honey in some warm milk, and then bring it out here. You may be surprised by what you see." Akimbo ran back to the kitchen and mixed the milk and honey as he had been instructed. Then he dashed back to the run, trying not to spill any of the precious sweet liquid on his way. Handing the dish to the ranger, he stood back and watched while it was placed right under Simba's nose. For a short time, the lion did nothing. Then, slowly, his nose began to twitch. "Come on," urged the ranger. "Time for lunch." Simba had now staggered uncertainly to his feet, his nose still sniffing at the edge of the dish. Then, as if it was the most natural thing in the world for him to do, his tongue shot out and began to lick up the rich white liquid, slopping it everywhere about him as he did so. "There," said the ranger. "That's the end of his feeding problems, Akimbo." Over the next few days, Simba drank more milk than Akimbo would have thought possible. Fortunately, there was no shortage of supplies, as the rangers kept several cows for their own use. But it was not long before Akimbo's mother was sending off for more honey. "This lion of yours is going to eat us out of house and home," she laughed. "Look at how fat he's becoming." Akimbo's mother was right. The skin around Simba's stomach was now stretched tight, and when he walked it was with more of a waddle than the swagger one might expect of a lion. It was difficult not to laugh at him, and it was certainly hard to remember that in due course he would grow up into the most fearsome of beasts. It seemed impossible to imagine that this funny, rolling bundle of lion fur could ever be like the lions Akimbo had seen snarling and growling over their prey. When he was quite sure that Simba was used to his new surroundings, Akimbo allowed him out of the run. At first, the little lion seemed unwilling to leave the security of his cage, but after a short while his natural curiosity got the better of him, and he took his first few hesitant steps outside. He was happy to follow Akimbo, and was soon trotting contentedly behind him as he made his way from the run to the house. Every so often he would stop, sit down and scratch himself, but then he would bound up again, tripping over Akimbo's feet, jumping up at him playfully. Akimbo felt tremendously proud. It was marvellous to have a lion all of his own. And he knew too that Simba realised that he belonged to him. Each morning, when he went out to the run, there would be Simba, waiting impatiently for his master. As Akimbo opened the gate, the tiny lion would be all over him, licking and purring, just like a big cat. Then they would play games together, and perhaps go for a walk. As Akimbo walked along, Simba gambolling beside him, he felt that he was probably the luckiest boy in all of Africa.